My name is Janay Boucan, and you are now listening to the Know Your Worth podcast. Today, we're going to talk about knowing your worth in your marriage, in your career, and in relationships in general. So let's get started.
Awesome, can't wait.
Okay, so Scott and I met at Georgia State University when I was a resident assistant.
The real GSU.
Yes, the real GSU, let's be clear. And so it's crazy because right before I met Scott, I was in a long-term relationship. But unfortunately, it was just not going well. So one of the things about knowing your worth is, okay, this relationship is not working well. I've been in this relationship for a long time, on and off. It's time for me to do something different because this isn't working, right? So I was telling Scott, I was in this relationship and he literally worked up the street from where I, Georgia State, but I only saw him maybe 3 times that summer. And so I was like, this is not working for me. Janay, you are better than this. You deserve better than this. So let's part ways, right? Sometimes you grow apart and you move on. So I broke it off with my ex, and then here comes Mr. Scott Boucan. So do you want to tell us?
She's not really telling the full story. Okay,
what's the full story?
I guess I'll dive into it. So we initially met while she was in that relationship. So let's start from the very beginning.
Okay.
So I was pledging to my business fraternity, Alpha Kappa Psi, and I was visiting one of my pledge brothers on campus, and we were staying at his room, going to go visit, and Janay worked on campus, which I didn't know at the time, right? So I come in through the entrance of the building, and there's this sundress season, right? So I'm just painting the picture.
Okay, sundress season.
I'm setting the scene for the people, right?
I looked very nice in my sundress.
So, of course, I approach her, introduce myself, we start having a nice conversation, X, Y, and Z. And she invites me upstairs for smoothies. So, most of the young men in this, this generation, or most of the young men that are probably watching this, already know what's going through my mind. She invited me upstairs for smoothies, so it's going down. Absolutely not. That's not what happened.
Not at all.
So she invited me upstairs for smoothies, and I get to the room, and there are a lot more people than I expected. She's literally having a party upstairs, and I guess you call them events for your residents. Because like I said, she worked for the building. She worked for the university as an RA. I had no idea what any of that meant. So I thought I was going upstairs for something else. But we get upstairs, and we start socializing a little bit, meeting some of her residents, and she steps away for a second, and it's maybe 15 minutes, and she's gone. I was like, hey, what happened to Janay? Where'd you go? And she's on the phone, and somebody said, I think she's on the phone with her boyfriend. I was like, with her what? And I was like, it's not really the ball game. It's not really a situation that I like to dive into. I'm not into the business of prying people out of their relationships. It's just my thing. So
and neither was I. I was literally asking him, did he want to come to our midnight breakfast? And we happened to have smoothies because that was very popular for my residents. And so I don't know how he took smoothie as getting another dessert. I'm not sure. But I was definitely just offering midnight breakfast. And
obviously we're coming from 2 different approaches with things. Difference of communication. Obviously 10 years later, or going on 11 years later, we cleared things up. But so when I found out she was on the phone with her boyfriend that I didn't know she had, I decided to quickly vacate the area because, like I said, that's not the kind of situation that I like to get myself into. So I was like, I'll see you around. And so what I told her was I'll be right back, but I didn't see her for 2 semesters.
Never came back, y'all.
Absolutely not, because what's the purpose in that? Coming back for what? So we can be friends? No, I had plenty of those. So what I think it was maybe 2, like I said, it was 2 semesters later. We crossed paths between, for those of you familiar with Georgia State, crossing the street between the bookstore and the library. So there's a road that connects the 2. So I saw her and I was like, hey, so how's everything going? How's your boyfriend? Blah, blah, blah. She says, unfortunately, we broke up. I was like, unfortunately for him, what are we doing for lunch? So we went to just a peek into our daily lives of one of the 3 critters that we have living in our house. So we went to Copeland's, right? That was our first date. We went to Copeland's, and we had a great time there. Missy decided to have some lobster ravioli on the first date.
Because I deserve it. Know your worth.
I'm just meeting you. I don't know what you're worth at this point. Lobster ravioli is a little on the higher end of the menu, but it's cool. It's cool. I'm not the cheap guy. I'm just saying, first date might want to be a little more modest, but
absolutely not.
Y'all see what happens. So, we have great conversation as we do to this day, and I feel like that's one of the foundations that you have to have with your relationships. And I forgot who I was having this conversation with a few days ago. Even when you go into marriage, when you go into whatever your relationship situation is, it has to be beyond just the surface. Like you guys have to be good friends, because when all that physical stuff goes away, which it hasn't for us, but I'm just saying when it does, we'll still be able to have that best friendship and the ability to have conversation and the ability to make each other laugh, and just the fact that we're in the same room together is just entertainment for both of us. So the fact that we can do that was great, and we were able to establish that at that moment at Copeland's. So to get on with the story, my friend here didn't have a mode of transportation, which I didn't.
Put me on blast like that.
Once again, we're just setting the scene, just painting the picture. So
I'm in college, y'all. I'm a sophomore. Like, I didn't have a car. I didn't need one.
We were in college.
Didn't need one.
So, so what? I had to take her back to her mom's house in Lithonia. Now, so Copeland's was in Atlantic Station, right? And Georgia State is like maybe 10 minutes from Atlantic Station, and her mom lives in Lithonia, which is the opposite side of town from where my mom lives. But no biggie. Took her back home to her mom's house. We had conversation in the car.
And let me note that it was a very important conversation.
Or interrogation.
I wouldn't call it interrogation. I would call it, I was already in a relationship that, like I said before, was not working for me. And so I said, I want this relationship to work out. So I was very upfront in asking him very important questions. So of course I'm asking him about God, how do you feel about Christianity? I'm asking him about his past partners, because I'm just wanting to know. So, I asked for, any past history of any STDs. Do you have the results? Do y'all know he pulled it out of the glove compartment? Like I said.
Just like Carfax, everything was clean. Like there was no situation.
I just wanted to know why he had it on hand, but he said because of his past partner, he just wanted to make sure that there was no issues. So that was a green light for me. And then I also asked him about his credit, because at the time, look, after we graduate and everything, I just want to make sure that, if it's time to buy a house or something together after we, get married and all that stuff, like, where's your credit so we can help each other out? And at the time, I did have a very high credit score. It was like 750. So I was like, let's, see where we can go with this. But those questions were important to me because I wanted to know where our relationship was going. Where will you be in the next 5 to 10 years? Where do you see yourself? Are you a family man? Which are all very important questions. So,
excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And so I felt the need to ask those questions. And then I asked him to take me to my mom's house so that he could meet the family on the first date.
Now, I had a great time. We should keep in touch. We should do this again. X, Y, and Z. Where I'm available, this, that, whatever, right? But meeting the family is something I never did on the first date. Caught me off guard, caught them off guard. So, like I said, I'm used to single mom. Unfortunately, that's a prevalent thing in our community. My mom is a single mom. But the advantage for me is that because I was raised by a single mom, I know exactly what to say and what not to say, right? So I get in the house, and not only is there mom, there is dad, which I'm not used to dealing with. I have older brother, I have 3 younger sisters. Everyone turns around and looks at me like, what is this strange guy doing in our house? I give them the same look, it was her idea. But fast forward 10 going on 11 years later, I couldn't have been in a better situation. I have a great relationship with everybody in her family. From her older brother, we text like we were friends before Janay and I even met. Mom, great relationship. I have a great relationship with both dads, even though they're Cowboys fans, unfortunately. But I fixed the situation because she's a Niner fan now. So, and I also have great relationships with sisters as well. So, like I said, I couldn't have been in a better situation.
Okay. So let's talk about knowing your worth in your marriage. So give us an example.
For me, knowing your worth has, I guess, two perspectives for me. The first thing is knowing what you bring to the relationship, right? Whether that's happiness, whether that's entertainment, whether that's a sense of security, knowing what you bring to that relationship. And that's knowing what I'm valued, knowing my value, knowing my worth. The second aspect of that is knowing what I deserve in return. Because I know what I bring to the relationship, I know to expect certain things. For me, and my personal expectations are respect, to be valued, to be, like I said, respect is the biggest one, and that goes even outside of my relationship. A lot of times, whether it's at school, whether it's at work, whatever the situation may be, I bring respect whether you ask for it or not. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people, because you didn't have to ask me for respect, I'm expecting the same thing from you. Same thing in return. And I think her father told her that on the first date. He seems like one of those guys, when he does something for you, he expects the same thing in return.
Exactly.
Absolutely. I don't know how you figured that out, but he hit the nail right on the head with that one. But that's exactly who I am. Whatever I do, I expect the same ring in return, because if I don't think I'm better than anybody else, then why shouldn't I expect the same thing? So, yeah.
Okay. What about when you feel like you're not being heard, or like you feel like you are not being worthy or held worthy?
So there's a couple ways. There's the way that we started off with the relationship. I get upset. I don't say anything. I pretty much go like into, I guess, and a lot of guys do this. They go into the quiet mode. They're upset. They don't want to speak. Blah blah blah. But fast forward several years later, where I've matured and have a lot of growth and experienced a lot of growth, the way that you go about that is first by communication. One of the most important C in relationships. Shout out to our marriage counselor. And the second C is compromise. You're not going to always get what you want, but you always have to know when to, I guess, pick your battles, for lack of a better word. For example, I might not be able to pick out the color furniture we're going to get, but the fact that I don't care about the furniture that much anyway, let's just compromise on that. I love cooking, so the fact that the kitchen is set up or designed a certain way is important to me. So just like I said, knowing when and when not to pick those battles. And we talked about our counselor, just to give a little more advice. For those that are newlyweds, getting into relationships, even if you've been into relationships for a while, what I would recommend is that everyone find a neutral third party. Now, when I say neutral third party, I don't mean that mutual friend that both of you guys have. I mean somebody that doesn't have anything vested in either one of you guys. Somebody that preferably doesn't know either one of you guys. That way that person can always come and tell you the honest truth and unbiased. And preferably that would be a licensed marriage counselor, which we have, and she's phenomenal. I'm not sharing her with anybody. So she has a sense of, I'll give you examples to where she'll tell Janay, you're absolutely wrong, blah, blah, you should have never done blah, blah, X, Y, and Z. But she'll look at me and say, do you know why she's wrong? And it's because you did X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean? She'll put everything into perspective. And we've gone into marriage counseling to where we weren't even looking at each other and left holding hands, getting ready to go eat, and like nothing ever happened. Long story short, I think that's a big part of everybody's successful marriage. And my analogy for that is like your car. You don't wait until your car starts driving funny before you get your oil changed. Same thing with your relationship. You don't wait until things get rocky before you go get your relationship checked out by a licensed marriage professional. Now, mind you, she wasn't the first person we went to go visit. So also, make sure you guys find somebody that both you guys are comfortable with. She was the second person we went to go visit. The first one really wasn't for us. find somebody that relates to you guys. For me and Janay, it was very important that we found somebody that can relate to our experiences, from our faith, from our community, from a lot of the different things that are important to us. The fact that we can explain certain situations to her, she understood what they mean, and she can relate to them. Then she can help. She doesn't give you answers. She helps guide you to the answer. So we love you and we appreciate you if you ever watch this.
Well, that is the end of our Know Your Worth podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will have another episode next week.